I've got a place I'd like to start with you, and that's taking you all the way back to 2001, as you embarked on your early career, walking into McLaren as a manufacturing engineer. I think I've read that correctly.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
yeah, I just wanted to know really if you ever imagined yourself 20 years later in your wildest dreams leading a team of your own as a team principal into a championship decider.
That's a really good question. I'd actually even go back even further than that. And I remember I took a year out between school and university and was lucky enough to do a bit of traveling. And I remember distinctly speaking with some friends that we met while traveling about sort of future plans and what you wanted to do. And one of those very specific plans that I had was to run a racing team, and so in that respect, to be here now, it's kind of it's kind of a fulfillment of that, I suppose. But no, the route to get here was certainly different than I'd anticipated. But no, very pleased and very privileged to be here in the position that we're in, and yeah, very much looking forward to closing off this first World Championship season in Formula E.
Yeah, and also I'm going to take you back in the time machine, if you like, to Frankfurt when this chapter began. And I was lucky enough to be there. I remember we had a chat. You may not remember us there, but I remember it notably, the excitement and energy in the room about, Mercedes as a brand being in Formula E. And now you're only at the end of the second season, as I say, in this kind of top three teams looking for championships. In your mind, did you see yourself in this position just 2 seasons into the project, or we may be a little bit further ahead than you anticipated?
I think that we had set some very clear goals. On one hand, we're representing Mercedes-Benz. We've got that incredibly rich heritage in motorsport, and in recent times, of course, with the Formula One team, the success that they've enjoyed, I think there's a certain expectation. And at the end of the day, we're also fierce competitors. We're racers at heart, so we are very, very much in it to win it, if that's not too much of a cliche. But we were also realistic about the challenge. We were realistic about the complexity of Formula E, the fact that there were other teams that had gained experience over the years, although it's a relatively newcomer on the motorsport scene. So I think that we are very much where we would hoped to have been at this stage. But I think I've got to be careful, because although we're in a good position in terms of the standings as we go into this weekend, as we've seen throughout the season, that can flip very quickly. So we're a long way from achieving our ambitions, even maybe those ones that were measured a couple of years ago, because we can come out very much on top at the end of this weekend, but we can equally be down in sort of 5th, 6th place in the middle of the table quite easily as well. So it's a bit too early to start talking about that quite yet.
And talking about the highs and lows after London, unfortunately, we saw what happened with Stoffel. There was a tremendous photo of, I think, you speaking to Stoffel, who was sat in the chair, and you were crouched down next to him, obviously having some words in private. Being a journalist, I thought to myself, I would love to just kind of get some insight into driver-team principal relationship. How did you help him manage that situation as he was in that kind of low point of his race weekend?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I did help him, to be honest with you. I think it's, but no, it was a very, and we've experienced this before as well. It's one of those sort of bittersweet moments. You've got Nick who'd got on the podium and had a fantastic race. Stoffel, who should really have finished on the podium, if not won the race. And obviously, with the incident, that was sort of taken away from him, that opportunity. So, when an individual, even as part of the team overall, has put so much into that particular race, that particular event, and has performed admirably, and then through no fault of their own sort of been taken out, it's heartbreaking. I have a huge amount of respect for the drivers who've worked so hard throughout their careers, and it comes down to these kind of defining moments at the end of the day. So I think it's important to have an empathy in terms of understanding what's going on. and it was just an opportunity that was there to spend a few moments with Stoffel and put things into perspective, know that it's not over, that it's still to play for, and that he's going to bounce back very quickly. And we're very lucky with both of our drivers, with both Nick and Stoffel, that they've got this incredible resilience and this maturity. We've had those setbacks throughout the last couple of seasons that we've been involved in Formula E. It can be incredibly cruel at times, but very, very quickly they bounce back from it. And that moment with Stoffel that may have seemed quite emotional at the time, within sort of half an hour, 45 minutes, he was back in there in the debrief, talking completely rationally through the events and how we can now improve going forward. And that's that for me is the mark of not only a good driver but a great team player as well.
Yeah, and obviously speaking about the team, on the flip side of that, as you mentioned in your answer there, Nick, with not just the one but the two podiums, and weirdly in a way 2 P2s almost tells you everything you need to know about how unpredictable Formula E has been throughout the season, that you've got somebody who's finishing in P2 twice and now we're top of the standings, and he's in a position where in this topsy-turvy season at the top of the standings, he's in what you'd say is a numerical points advantage going into Berlin. But as we know, it's not that straightforward. What can you tell fans about maybe some insight as to Nick's preparation and how you think he may be dealing with this scenario as we go into this doubleheader in Berlin?
I think he's been asked in the lead up to Berlin, as we have as well, in terms of, are we going to try any sort of clever tactics around the, with regard to the qualifying groups and so on and so forth. And I just think that would be, it would be crazy to think that way. It can backfire so quickly. So really it is, again, going into this weekend, not with the championship in the forefront of our minds, but very much taking it event by event, race by race. And that's the key thing, and that's the approach that Nick's taken as well. So, the preparation that the guys have done in the simulator over the past days is going to be absolutely crucial. But the approach to that's been no different to the approach that we've had in other events. We've got a chat later on this evening with both drivers, where we'll talk through again what the expectations are for the weekend, how we want to go into the weekend, and the mindset that we want to have. And I've got no doubt that they'll still have that same level-headed approach of things, of sort of saying, no, we know we're going into it just to maximize the point scoring opportunities at every turn. And I think that's the right way to look at it. So it's all to play for, but there are a number of other teams and a number of other drivers having exactly the same discussions. And I think what we need to do is just get there on Saturday and then on Sunday and execute in the fashion that we know we can.
And obviously, being such a huge motorsport family, Mercedes is, of course, you've got people like Toto, Wolff around the team, expertise from the F1 side as well. And this is really more one for the news lines, if you like. If you can just dance with me on this one for a second. How much, can we read into the fact that it's a family, knowledge sharing, mentorship? How much does that come into play when you set up this structure for the Formula E team, and maybe how much has that helped you come from this 2-season cycle up to where you are now?
We've been incredibly fortunate being part of the Mercedes Motorsport family, and to have that experience and expertise to draw on as we've set things up. At the same time, the series themselves between Formula One and Formula E, they're fundamentally different in the setup, in the way that we also need to approach the task at hand. So it's been a real privilege to be able to almost cherry pick the bits that are going to be appropriate, if you like, for Formula E, and then adapt other things to make sure that we've got something which is suitable for the task. And a lot of it, at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing that I've learned is the spirit of the team. So there are almost mantras that we have when we talk about that no blame culture, the fact that everybody has the the authority to call things out when they're not right, and to challenge, and we can challenge each other openly without fear of reprisal. And I think that's incredibly important. And that, if anything, to be able to take that from the F1 team and embed that culture into the FE team has been, I think, a game changer for us. And we've very much built up over the last couple of years that culture within the team. So let's see how we get on over this weekend, and whether that's also played a role in hopefully our success.
I wish you all the best as you go into the double header. I'm going to be watching on TV, and hopefully on the other side we can catch up, fingers crossed, with some good news.
Thank you very much. Great to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
Hope to see you at a race soon. Thanks,
absolutely. Can't wait. See you.